Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be talking about all the players that you guys need to keep an eye on for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Week 7 matchup versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's not waste any time. Let's talk about the first player that I think we should all keep an eye on in this upcoming game, and that is Ronald Jones. I have been mentioning Ronald Jones a lot this past month, and for good reason. He just wrapped up his third consecutive 100-yard rushing game in a row, and I have a pretty good feeling that this has a pretty decent chance to be his fourth consecutive 100-yard rushing game in a row. 3 straight 100-yard games by a running back is pretty rare for the Buccaneers, especially in recent memory, so congrats to Ronald Jones for that. For those of you who have been following the channel for a little bit now, you will know that I'm a big Ronald Jones fan, and I think in this upcoming game versus the Raiders, he will have a majority of the carries, he will have a majority of the snaps, because he's earned it. He has earned that right to maintain those carries, maintain those snaps over guys like Leonard, Fournette, LeSean McCoy, and Vaughn, who are all still recovering from nagging injuries that they have had at one point or another throughout this season. Ronald Jones has been really the only healthy running back from a week-to-week basis, and he's been proving his overall command of the running back room with the performances that he has been having. So, good job, Ronald Jones, and I think that he will keep his momentum going in this game versus the Raiders. The next player I want to mention here to keep an eye on is going to be a newly acquired player by the Bucs, and that is Steve McClendon, defensive tackle, who the Buccaneers acquired literally right after their game with the Packers. He was acquired from the New York Jets for a 6th round draft pick, and the Bucs got a 7th round draft pick in return. So overall, pretty good deal. And in the comment section of that video where I talked about that trade, a lot of you guys were very supportive of the move. You had talked about his experience with Todd Bowles back during Todd Bowles' time as the New York Jets head coach for 3 or 4 seasons there. You had mentioned that he is a very strong defensive tackle that is very solid in the run game, and he is a very capable veteran. So, hey, glad we're all, most of us, for I guess I should say, I'm glad that most of us are in agreement that we're all pretty excited to have Steve McClendon on this team to fill in that role of Vita Vea. I imagine now the circumstances are going to be Steve McClendon and Nacho both rotating in as those potential fringe starting-esque type nose tackle guys. I talked about Khalil Davis in the last video. I just saw on social media recently Greg Auman of The Athletic talking about the idea that now Khalil Davis can kind of really go back to being on the inactive list. It is possible, considering that essentially Steve McClendon has taken Vita Vea's roster spot and will have a pretty similar role to what Vita Vea had. There really isn't much of a point to have Khalil Davis active in games right now unless another injury or, any type of versatility is needed along the defensive line. Khalil Davis can go back to his usual thing of being inactive and just being there when he is needed. So, yeah, going to be really interesting to see. I know I had mentioned in the previous video Khalil Davis will be rotating in there as well. Now may not seem as likely. We could see it a little bit in this upcoming game because Steve McClendon still needs to get ready. I know he doesn't have to learn a ton of things from the playbook since he was already with Todd Bowles for so many years, but still he has to get acclimated and things along those lines. But I would like to think that we're going to be seeing a healthy amount of Steve McClendon and Nacho in this upcoming game versus the Raiders. So keep an eye on the new Bucs defensive tackle, because I know that a lot of us are very excited to have him on the team. The next player worth mentioning is going to be wide receiver Scotty Miller, who has also been dealing with injuries throughout this season, just small nagging things, maybe an arm injury here, a leg injury there. That's not necessarily the specifics of what he's been dealing with, but the point is that nagging injuries have limited what Scotty Miller can do the past couple of games for this team, which is really unfortunate because throughout the start of the season, Tom Brady and Scotty Miller were really gelling and clicking and working on chemistry and all the lovely things that you like to hear. Scotty Miller and Tom Brady were doing those things. They were basically having one beautifully thrown, beautifully caught deep ball connection per game, basically until a couple of weeks ago when Scotty Miller had a couple of these nagging injuries that has really overall hampered him the past 2 to 3 weeks, especially in this last game versus the Packers. I believe he only had 1 target. So I'm looking for Scotty Miller to finally bounce back, finally get fully healthy, and continue that pace that he was on to start the season. I'm looking for him to bounce back in those ways versus the Raiders and get some things going in terms of being a deep threat again for Tom Brady. Because when Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Scotty Miller are all out there, it's going to be a pretty dangerous combination in my opinion. So look for Scotty Miller to bounce back from all of the injuries that he's been working through. The second to last player I want to mention is going to be cornerback Jamel Dean, who had a pretty solid game last week versus the Packers. He had a pick six against Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't happen very often. And overall, he's really been rebounding from what was admittedly, not just myself and what a lot of people have admitted, a rough start to the season. He has been bouncing back in a big way. A lot of people are getting behind Jamel Dean again, and I totally understand why. He's, a part of this trio of very good young cornerbacks that the Buccaneers have. Sure, he may not have been doing the best to start the season, but he's been coming along again very nicely the past couple of weeks. And overall, I've been very impressed with what he's been able to do, especially last week. I think that is a great momentum builder for Jamel Dean. Getting a pick six on a guy like Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, that's going to give you a shot in the arm. That's going to give you a platform to build on for the remainder of the season. So I expect Jamel Dean to get a ton of work in here versus the Raiders. Henry Ruggs is not somebody you want to mess around with. He's insanely fast, so I expect Jamel Dean to be matched up with Henry Ruggs a lot. I was going to put that in my matchups video yesterday, but I kind of wanted to talk about that right here. Henry Ruggs versus Jamel Dean is going to be just absolutely insane in terms of the speed that both those guys carry. So pay attention to those guys in this upcoming game versus the Raiders. Pay attention to Jamel Dean because he has a lot of momentum on his side right now. Finally, guys, the last player that I kind of want to mention is Bradley Pinion. And look, Bradley Pinion admittedly did not have the best game last week. He had 5 punts. I believe 2 of them were inside the 20, but he had maybe, I want to say, 2 or 3 really bad punts. I mean, just not the best looking punts. Could have been a lot better. Now, I'm a big fan of Bradley Pinion. He is the people's champ after all, but I do understand that, yeah, he had a bad game last week, and he definitely needs to improve. So overall, I'm looking for Bradley Pinion to have a much better game. I don't think that this is going to be a consistent issue with the team, and I'll just say right now, if it is a consistent issue, well, Pat McAfee's out there. I'm just saying, hey, I'm a big Pat McAfee guy. I'm a big Bradley Pinion guy. But overall, I do think that Bradley Pinion will rebound. He will get back to the form that we saw him early on in this season, which was really good, by the way. And he's always been good on kickoffs and things like that with getting touchbacks and making sure the returner really doesn't have a chance to do anything with the ball. But his punting specifically earlier on in the season was just chef's kiss to that, because that was really good work that Bradley Pinion was doing at the start of the season. He had an overall rough game last week, and he is also looking to rebound in this upcoming game versus the Raiders. And, guys, just one more player I want to mention. I know I only usually do 5 for these videos, but there is one more guy that I do want to mention to keep an eye on, and that is Shaq Barrett. Now, a lot of people have been talking to me because I'm a big Shaq Barrett guy. You guys can't see it right now, but the Shaq Barrett drawing up there, the Shaq Barrett shirt up there, I have a lot of stock invested in Shaq Barrett, and not financially, just hype. I hype up Shaq Barrett a lot, okay? I have a lot of hype stock into Shaq Barrett, and a lot of people have been disappointed so far by the start of his season. They say, he took his money and now he's not doing as good. I tend to disagree. I do. Now, his sack numbers, he only has 3 sacks. Jason Pierre-Paul has 5.5 sacks. I believe Jason Pierre-Paul actually is like 4th or 5th right now in the NFL in terms of sack numbers, so shout out to him for that. But Shaq Barrett only 3 sacks now that we are coming into our 7th game. A lot of people have been disappointed. I would like to point out that Shaq Barrett is 4th right now in quarterback pressures in the entire NFL. I believe he has 31 quarterback pressures, which is, again, 4th in the entire NFL. That's up there with Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, and I believe Chandler Jones or Myles Garrett. One of, 3 of those 4 guys are in the top 4 to 5, and Shaq Barrett's right up there with them. So overall, that's pretty darn impressive in my opinion. I've been saying that Shaq Barrett's been getting very, very close, but he just hasn't been able to get his sack numbers there yet. I still fully believe that Shaq Barrett will finish with double-digit sacks in this upcoming season, or towards the end of the season, rather. I think that Jason Pierre-Paul will also finish with double-digit sacks to finish out the year. The Bucs can have 2 double-digit sack pass rushers. I still fully believe that 7 games into the year. Shaq Barrett's been getting very close. He just hasn't been able to seal the deal on some of these sacks, but I do think his time is coming, and I think that it will start versus the Raiders. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think about all the players that I mentioned down in the comment section below. What are some of the players that you guys are going to be keeping an eye on in this upcoming game versus the Raiders? And guys, again, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.